Hello friends. Today I'm going to tell you about a sci-fi series, Foundation. In the distant future, humans populate the entire galaxy, ruled by a genetic dynasty. One scientist predicts the collapse of the Empire, so he decides to build a repository of knowledge on the edge of the galaxy. Teenagers of the first generation of settlers on the remote planet Terminus go to the mysterious object, which is named the Vault, although it was here before the settlers arrived. The Vault emits a force field that keeps out living beings. The boy goes towards the Vault, but faints. He is saved by a girl named Salver, colony warden and the only one who can approach the Vault. The action moves back in time. The great scientist Hari Seldon is waiting for the arrival of the girl Gal Dornick, who has won a contest in mathematics. Meanwhile, the girl is preparing to leave her home planet. She says goodbye to her parents and sits in the space rudder, where she meets a man, to whom she tells about winning the contest. The passengers fall asleep for the duration of the interdimensional journey, but suddenly Gal sees something and wakes up during the jump. Upon general awakening, the man says that normally people cannot be conscious during an interdimensional jump. Gal does not admit to being awake at the time. The ship approaches the Star Bridge, where the arrivals are greeted by a hologram of the Emperor. The descent to the planet Trantor begins, the capital of the Empire, where millions of its inhabitants live beneath the surface. The Empire is ruled by the clones of Emperor Cleon I, who exists in his three clones, Brother Dawn, Brother Day and Brother Dusk. Brother Day starts a conversation with a restorer who has been found in possession of a treatise of Seldon, forbidden in the Empire. He excuses himself as mere curiosity, but the artist is destroyed on the spot. Day returns to his brothers when they are informed of the arrival of a delegation from the planet Anacreon and Thespes. Brother Dawn, accompanied by his mentor, goes to meet them and learns that these planets have been feuding with each other for a long time. It was for reconciliation that the Emperor summoned them. Meanwhile, Gal is met by Hari's adopted son, Rach, and listens to her whisper. She confesses that she counts prime numbers when excited. The girl meets Seldon, who is impressed that the girl was able to read the complicated Abraxas hypothesis, especially on Synaxis, where Gal is from. Scientists are outlawed. He shows the girl a rare manuscript, and then suddenly admits that they will be arrested very soon, because he wrote a work on psychohistory, where he predicted that in about 500 years the Empire will disappear, Trantor will be destroyed, and the whole galaxy will be plunged into an abyss of endless wars. A distraught girl complains to Rach, for she flew here full of hope. Meanwhile, the Emperor accepts the gifts of the two worlds, each side wanting to be better than the other. At Gal's request, Rach takes her to the Temple of the Seers, the religion of her people, where its abbot promises the girl any help, after which she leaves. In the morning, the girl expects to be arrested, and they come for her. As Seldon expected, he and Gal are accused of intending to undermine the Empire, with the goal of destruction, but if Gal says that Seldon's calculations are wrong, she will not be touched. The accused are led to the courtroom, where the prosecutor brings heavy charges. Seldon explains that the psychohistory he has developed can predict the development of states, planets and galaxies based on mathematical calculations. According to his calculations, the Empire will collapse, after which there will be bloody wars for many thousands of years, but this time can be reduced to 1,000 years if he is listened to. A little later, Gal meets her flight acquaintance, and the latter admits that he has been watching her. He instructs the girl to study Seldon's writings and refute his conclusions. If she says that the scientist lied, he dies, but if she admits his truthfulness, she dies. Also, he knows that during the jump she was awake and aware of everything. Back in his room, Gal opens the teacher's radiant and reads Seldon's math calculation. At the next court session, Seldon makes a proposal for a galactic encyclopedia that can serve as a basis for future generations that survive the collapse of the Empire. Then the humans can preserve their history and knowledge. Hall admits that all of Hari's calculations are correct and the decline of the Empire will occur. They are both sentenced to execution for fomenting false information. They are led to a place of confinement. Suddenly, there is a disaster on some levels of the Star Bridge. Several people who have arrived on Trantor are suddenly silenced by prayers, and then explode the bombs built into their bodies. The huge, majestic structure collapses, crumpling buildings and burying millions of lives underneath. The Emperor summons the messengers, reporting that they heard the battle songs of their planet's rebellion before the explosion. Meanwhile, Rach comes to Gal to convince the girl to say that the scientist was wrong. But then the military takes her to the Emperor, where Seldon is already there. urging her to accept the sabotage as a foreshadowing of what he warned about. Gal, incurring their wrath, still speaks out that Seldon's death will only cause the collapse to accelerate. The scientists call for an end to the cloning of Emperor Cleon, which only causes anger, but sometime later they are announced that they are allowed to build a foundation on the remote planet Terminus. They will fly a ship devoid of a jump system. If psychohistory is wrong, their foundation will die. As Gal leaves the courtroom, he realizes that Seldon had already foreseen this outcome by calculation. The Empire is looking for those who organized the sabotage and come to the underground laboratory where they created hypodermic bracelets, which blew up the Star Bridge, but who ordered the bombs was not able to find out. The brothers argue among themselves about ways to solve this problem. Brother Day expresses his doubts about the expediency of sending Seldon and his followers, who in the meantime continue the flight. During the long journey, Gal began to spend more time in the pool. During this time, she and Rach have started a relationship and the boyfriend often comes to her workouts. During the rest of their time, the future settlers study specialties that will help in the exploration of the planet. One day, Hall's team is working on a natural simulator simulating mining on Terminus, but something goes wrong. The men are attacked by a wild animal and as expected, the team is killed. Gal shares his fears that the death rate on the new planet will be too high. Meanwhile on Trantor, the envoys of Anacreon and Thespes are accused of the terrorist attack. As it was their songs that were sung by the suicide bombers, the ambassadors try to justify themselves, but the emperor is sure that their dialect is impossible to reproduce without an accent. Meanwhile, Dusk feels the onset of old age. He can no longer do the usual things, and this makes him furious. Gal is being examined on the ship, and the doctor says that some of the flying girls want to give birth naturally, without waiting for arrival on the planet. Gal goes to one of them, and the latter reminds her of her own mortality calculations. She is willing to do whatever it takes to carry and give birth to the baby before landing. Meanwhile, Brother Dusk and Mentor fly around the planet to see the terrible aftermath of the disaster, and descend to the Temple of the Seers. Mentor convinces the Emperor not to take any chances and return to the shuttle while the old man tries to understand why the priest went to Seldon's trial, and he admits that he believes the scientist. The conversation is interrupted by guards who forcibly remove the Emperor as the temple begins to collapse. Back on the ship, the Mentor notices that she has been wounded in the shoulder. At this time on the ship, Gal is swimming in a pool. Upon surfacing, the girl sees a scientist who has come to talk about their relationship with Rach and reminds her of an upcoming meeting. Gal asks Rach if Seldon knows about their relationship, but the latter reassures the girl, though he realizes that the scientist would be against it, since the relationship distracts from the goal. Gal admits that Seldon's calculations are not quite ready. She saw it in the Radiant. The girl comes to the meeting instead of Seldon and starts asking uncomfortable questions about starting work on a new planet. The council can't decide on what system to count numbers on. She talks about the importance of agreement between people, because everything is different everywhere, and if they want to keep everything important, they have to agree on a system of calculation on the way. On Trantor, Brother Dawn watches as his mentor cuts the skin underneath the mechanism and repairs the malfunction from the wound. The boy worries for her, for she is the last representative of her people, robots who lost a great war with the Empire long ago, but the woman reassures the boy. In another part of the palace, Brother Day finds Brother Dusk in front of a display case with the body of Cleon I and realizes that the latter is preparing to leave. The old man marvels at the conceit of their first and chief Cleon, who has decided that henceforth he will rule forever and claims the right to speak to the ambassadors. They are invited to dinner, where Brother Dusk tries to get the truth, but the Paslins stand their ground. They are not involved in the terrorist attack. Their planets have no reason to oppose the Empire. And then Brother Dusk announces their future death because he doesn't believe in their innocence. Meanwhile on the ship, Seldon comes to the laundry room, where the workers question him about his attitude towards the flight plan. The latter, calling each one by name, confesses that he has carefully selected them for the foundation of the future colony. They shake his hand, and he thanks the men for believing in him. Later, Gal and Rach have lunch and Seldon himself sits down at the table and laughingly recounts his first meeting with Rach, who tried to steal books from him for his alcoholic father. Rach accuses the scientist of lying because his father only got drunk after his mom died, which causes Seldon shame. Rach leaves the table. Gal catches up with him in the room with a simulated sunset. She thinks Seldon is just jealous of them, afraid of losing influence over Rach, who is almost like a son to him. Meanwhile, the clone brothers discuss their actions with the offending planets. Day and Dusk decide to act seriously, while Dawn fears cruelty. The clones intend to show the power of the Empire, and in the morning the bound members of the delegations are brought to the square. Day gives a speech about the importance of the Empire, which is ready to avenge the wound inflicted, and with a motion of his hand Day orders the delegations to be destroyed and missiles to be launched en masse at Anacreon and Thespia. The ambassadors are not executed. They are released to the ashes left of their home planets so they can convey the Emperor's will to the survivors. The humans disperse. Dawn is left with a mentor who tries to comfort the boy, explaining the need for cruelty to the unruly. She promises to always be with him, and he is horrified by this solution to his problems. Meanwhile, Gal is making another swim when he suddenly feels a strong alarm and runs to Seldon's quarters, where to his horror he sees Rach with a bloody knife in his hand and the mortally wounded scientist. The guy drags the girl out, forcefully leads her to the exit, putting her in an escape pod, releases her into outer space, and he himself looks after her with tears in his eyes. This is the end of the retelling of the first 2 episodes of the series.